Hey, my friend, Mark Delaney here. This topic in this video is pretty tough because we're talking about what do you do when your teenager is really struggling as a person. So let me start with a short introduction. First of all, I taught in schools for about 20 years, worked closely with families over the course of those years. And so I spent a lot of time in the trenches with real people in their lives. And I hope to offer some help to people because sometimes it is tough when you're a parent and inside of your own home, this wonderful child of yours that you dearly love is really struggling. And you and your spouse are left wondering, what do we do with this? So I'd like to start with a little bit of humor. My daughter, when she was about 20, had moved out with a friend, and she had a problem with her car. She had a tire that kept going low in air. And over the course of a month, she'd keep me updated, and she'd call me, and I'd say, you should take it here or there. And then she called me again, and she said, Dad, it's low again. And it wasn't flat, but it was getting pretty low. And she finally, in exasperation, she said, Dad, you know what's really weird? Every time it gets low, it always gets low on the bottom. And as a dad, I thought to myself, what have I done? What did I do for 18 years with this human? That somehow they don't understand that a tire gets flat on the bottom and why it gets flat on the bottom. Oh boy. Parenting is an overwhelming thing. It is so wonderful, and it's also impossible. I want to help you with sharing some principles to help you navigate through a time when your teenager is really struggling. And because of that, your relationship is very difficult to navigate, and it causes a lot of pressure on your life. It's hard to sleep well. It's hard to go about your life because you're always wondering what's going to happen with my kid. So I want to talk about 5 things in hopes of relieving some of the pressure off of your life. First of all, don't blame yourself. It's just not helpful. Of course, you are an imperfect parent because everyone is, but don't blame yourself. And also don't blame someone else, because looking for someone to blame is not going to help bring any solution. It actually becomes a distraction. Number 2, remind yourself that you do not control the results. I tell you, when life is tough, we want to jump in and make stuff happen, but when your kid's a teenager, what we do to try to make things happen usually makes things worse. So if we start putting boards over the windows and taking the door off their bedroom, it might seem like it's going to help, but usually what we try to do to control matters only makes things worse. Number 3 is very meaningful for me because it played a big role in my life, and it's simply this. As a person, not just as a parent, but think of yourself as just you the person. Face your own struggles honestly. What are the struggles that you face in your life? What are the struggles that you face in your heart? Face those things. I recall looking at my kids sometimes as they were teenagers, and I saw them at a place where it's just like, they're not in a good place. And part of me, I remember looking at them in the living room and thinking, am I the reason they're like this? Did I do this to my kids? Did my influence cause this? I wondered those things, and I don't think those were really true, although I do think that we as parents struggle with the same things that our kids struggle with because we're human. That's what we share in common. So here's the thing. If we face honestly the struggles in our life, it will give us wisdom to how to think about and play a role in helping our kids with the struggles in their life. But if I hide the junk about me, how will I know how to help my kids with the junk that's in them? What I found in my life is that when I was honest about me, it changed me. And when I changed, it had a ripple effect on my kids. I know this is a scary thought, because what person wants to look inward? It's scary to wonder what's in here. I tell you, what's inside of you is probably your gift. What's inside of you is not just your struggle, but your gift. And if you're willing to face yourself, you'll be better for all the people in your life, and you'll be much better for your kids. So facing yourself, almost always involves a conversation with someone else. It might be your spouse. It might be a conversation you have with someone who's like a counselor. It might be a conversation you have with a friend, or you just simply say, I need to face some things about me that I've been hiding. And if you're willing to just talk about those fears, those insecurities, the stuff that you've been kind of dragging around in your life, what you'll find is freedom. If you need help with that, by the way, I wrote a book on this called One Step to Freedom. And it's really a pathway not to like fix yourself or overly focus on your problems, but how to be set free from how you think about all of it. So it's called One Step to Freedom. You can find that wherever books are sold. Okay, here comes number 4. And you're not going to be ready for this, but I've got to say this because it's so helpful. So take a deep breath in and out. Number 4 is this: be honest and vulnerable with your spouse about the state of your marriage. Marriage can be sometimes a painful thing for many years for people. There can be something that happened that has become this living like gremlin inside of your bedroom that feels like it's just constantly eating away at both of you. Something happened, things have gone wrong, and it just feels like things have never been okay, and we're constantly trying to like maneuver our way around it, and we're constantly hiding it, and it's just exhausting. It is so exhausting to be married to someone that you feel like we're nothing but messed up. I want to just share my heart with you as lovingly as I can. Recently, I talked to my mom, and she told me a story that I never knew. You see, my grandparents on her side were pillars of the community. He was a business owner. She was involved in every type of community event and political movements. She was always trying to change the world. And they were like real patriarchs in their community. And that's all I ever knew about them. My mom told me a story. She said when I was a little girl, for a couple of years, me and my siblings had to get split up and sent to different people in our family because my parents were struggling so much in marriage. I was like, really? Grandma and Grandpa? Well, yeah. You see, in the way we live life, the way social media functions, the way we function in society is everyone kind of puts their best face forward everywhere they go. And so no one knows what kind of struggles happen in people's lives. We don't tend to know that even great people who build a legacy go through some tough seasons together that last a number of years. And because we don't hear these real stories, it's hard for us to understand the real story of our life and what we can do. And so I want to just boldly say to you that maybe as in marriage, you've been struggling for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. What if it can change? What if you're not as far off as you think? Although it's been exhausting for all those years, what if you're a shift away from a different place? This is so worth examining because your marriage is like the machine of parenting. So if the marriage is broken, the parenting machine is broken. It's hard to know how to make decisions together for your kids. Your marriage is like the oxygen in the house that your kids breathe in. If the marriage is struggling, the oxygen is low and it impacts your kids. So this is so worth talking about. I want you to have a visual in your mind of like a wilderness, because life is like a wilderness. What you need is a pathway in the wilderness to the life you're made for. So let's say as a couple, you've been walking beside that path about 15 feet. And because of that, you have to keep walking through bushes, climbing through branches. You have to keep walking through poison ivy sometimes. And all the steps are so hard. It's an awful journey. You're constantly just trudging through the wilderness. Well, what if the whole time you were just 15 feet from the path, and with a little shift over, you can get onto this path where now you can just walk on dirt and everything is easier. Every step is lighter. You don't have to walk through bushes anymore. You don't have to trim branches. No more poison ivy. No more cobwebs. Where you can walk together, and it's not going to be perfect. But how different would life be then? And the reality is that even if something has been awful for many years, it can be different pretty quickly. What if you didn't have to fix your past, but instead focus on your future? What if the only thing your marriage needed was grace and forgiveness to flood it and it change? What if? What if we looked at each other and simply said, you know what? It's been messy. I've been messy. I'm part of the problem. And we both can say that to each other, and then just start with a clean slate and be like, what do we want to do with the rest of our lives together? What if we did that? From the beginning of time, human beings have been doing that together, and you can be the next couple to do that. And you know, when you do that, you know who's going to have a front row seat? Your kids. And it's going to thrill their heart to see something beautiful happening between their mom and their dad. It's going to thrill their heart. It's going to give them so much more peace. It's going to give them confidence. It's going to give them hope that love works, that happiness can happen between people. There are challenges in life that we kind of understand we might have. Tough things happen in life. Some kind of sickness, some kind of loss. And those kind of challenges, we understand they're difficult. But we tend to not accept difficulty in marriage, and we think that it's wrong or bad. And because of that, we put up walls, and we kind of just get cold-hearted because there's not supposed to be problems in marriage. And because of that, it's the walls that we put up that prevent us from being able to change and grow together and learn to love each other. If you've had problems in marriage, there's nothing wrong with you. You're a human, married to a human, but you can change. And here's number 5, and this is an unbelievable thought, but I've got to share it with you. That is to surrender. Life sometimes brings us challenges that we cannot control. That it's a hard situation, like with your kids, and you want to be able to grip it and make things become what you want it to become. It feels so dangerous. Like, what's my kid becoming? What's going to happen to them? What are they going to do with that boyfriend or girlfriend? What are they going to do in their car? Like, what are they going to do with that job? What are they going to do with their life? If they move out, if they don't move out, if they go in the military, if they go to college, don't go to college, it feels like the sky could fall forever on your kids. And so fear can really set in as a parent. But listen, when there's things going on in your child's life that you cannot control, the wonderful tool you can use is surrender. Surrender doesn't mean you're giving up. Surrender doesn't mean that you don't care. Surrender changes the posture of your heart, and it's so important. Surrender is really hard to explain. I'll share a story that illustrates it. I was kayaking one time with family, and we got into a dangerous situation, and I'll just say that I got a lot closer to drowning than I ever want to get. Now, honestly, I didn't get very close, but for me to get close to drowning is way too close. So I survived the ordeal. I'm kind of in this tree on the bank of the river, and now I have to get to the other side. And on the other side is where all of the kayaks and rafts and lunches have drifted to, and there's like a triage unit over there, and everyone's made it. And now I just need to get to that other side. And I take my life preserver and I put it on. It was just a seat cushion in my kayak, but now I'm putting this thing on. I'm strapping it because this water is serious. So the water, I didn't know how deep it was. It was just a river. It wasn't like the whitewater rapids or anything, but I had to get into this river and just swim to the other side. I can swim, not professionally, but I can swim. But as soon as I got in and I began to try to swim, this water, the current was a lot stronger than I could deal with, and I was swimming kind of against it, and I was immediately in trouble. The anxiety was immediate. The feeling of, oh my goodness, I think I'm going to drown again. And it was immediate. And it makes you want to try harder. And of course, that makes it worse. There was someone right near me there was like an island in this river. And this man became the community lifeguard. He understood the water and the river well, and he was just serving everyone in this situation. He saw me, and he simply yelled to me, "Let the current take you." In that moment, I was so open to constructive criticism. It's like I immediately knew what he was saying. I stopped swimming, and I started floating. I just grabbed the life preserver, and I let the current take me down the river. Not far, but it was an immediate, lazy river. It was relaxing. Instead of trying to swim against this thing that I couldn't control and I couldn't do anything with, I was just floating. This is what surrender's like. I wasn't giving up on my life. Surrender postured me to navigate through this difficult season. I needed to let go. I needed to stop fighting against something that you can't win against. And as I floated downstream just a little bit, I could just lightly kick my legs and work my way to the side of the river. And I'm back with friends and family and lunch and my kayak, and everything's fine. Surrender it's about floating, but floating isn't about giving up. Floating is about trusting. It's about trusting. When you can't control what's in front of you with your child, what if you trust? And your trusting heart can relax a little bit. Instead of trying to make something happen, this different posture of heart, you'll be better at coming up with ideas. You'll be better with the movements you make. Your decisions will be better. The way you talk to your child will be better. Because if you're trying to swim against the current with your kid and you're flailing your arms, your kids will go like this and be like, "Mom, Dad, they're flailing their arms." You'll be like that desperate person who's drowning that just starts whacking people in the head out of desperation. You'll kind of become like that desperate person with your kid, and you'll kind of just scare them off. They won't know what to think of you. But in a surrendered heart where you just kind of trust, you're going to have this whole different countenance about you that your kid might just come to you for advice. It'll help calm them down because you've calmed down. Because the reality is when your kid is facing all kinds of stuff and it looks like they're going crazy, it's because they feel like they're going crazy. It doesn't help if you're going crazy, but if you can trust a little bit. Surrender helps the heart to trust, and then you're much better postured for how to help. I really hope this content is helpful to you. I love to serve the lives of important people. I love to be like a butler to Batman. I want to serve people who want to live a big life. Your life is important. Your kids are important. Your marriage is important. Your future, so important. I hope this has been helpful to you. And if it is helpful, this is the kind of content I want to produce. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It helps me to simply share content that helps people live their best life.